Welcome to Get to Know Glasgow, the podcast that tells you what you need to know about student life at the University of Glasgow from those who know it best. In this series, 4 undergraduate and postgraduate students will share their Glasgow journeys.
I'm Ash.
Hey, I'm Danielle.
I'm Jaquine.
And I'm Victor.
In each episode, we'll be sharing our experience
and giving you our top tips
on everything from student accommodation to funding options,
so you'll know what it's really like to be part of Team U of G.
Let's get started.
So, have you had much luck with employability kind of coming to Glasgow? How have you found work?
Yeah, I feel like I have had most of my opportunities within the university, and it kind of most of the work experience that I've had that I have had, since I became a student, was with music in the university. So I started essentially by being a volunteer, at the lunchtime concerts, and that eventually led to a couple of paid opportunities here and there, which was really nice. But overall, it was just a really nice way to get experience and make, nice contacts and stuff like that. And of course, just being the content creator at the university. So, there are lots of, really fun and interesting opportunities that it can get just from being a student and paying attention to, the internal opportunities that university, gives you. But on the other hand, I feel that, for most of my life as a student, I was on a scholarship, a research scholarship, so I wasn't actually actively, looking for work outside of the university. So I feel like, right now I'm kind of at this transition point in my life where I feel like I need to find work. So I need to ask you guys for advice.
No, that's so fair. I think for me personally, I believe, and I've learned it the hard way, right? That the employers, even part-time work employers, need more employees as bad as the employees need the jobs at those places. And it's very rational and it's hard to believe at some times, but the bottom line is it is not hard at all to find a job in Glasgow, especially considering the amount of restaurants and pubs you have where you can find a part-time job, or even the amount of opportunities in different sectors for full-time jobs. There are so many resources on the website, for example, that you can use. In fact, I found this one resource really, really helpful. I think it was mock online interview kind of a thing on the website. It's on the employability website of University of Glasgow, where you can literally practice interviews online, especially for when it comes to finding a full-time job, and the virtual interview stage, which is one of the most intimidating processes in the application process. I think that's when this resource can be used pretty well, because this information is coming from personal experience, because fortunately I have secured a place at AstraZeneca in Cambridge, which is the world headquarters of AstraZeneca. And I think I have got this opportunity, obviously because I applied, but also I think the university has offered a lot of support throughout the process, even with tips for application process and how to make a better CV. We had different sessions, tutorials, and then I think using the website really helped me as well, the careers website. Apart from my full-time, this is a placement that I'm doing as a part of my course. So my course is going to be an integrated master's degree now instead of just a bachelor's honors degree. But this is the highlight of my year, you guys, for real.
Yep.
AstraZeneca, it's the biggest pharmaceutical company in the UK. And I think it's ideal for this degree that I'm doing, and even for future students who are doing molecular or cellular biology, or even related life sciences degree. It's a great opportunity. But I was going to say, apart from that, even for part-time jobs, I have never been unemployed in Glasgow.
Yep.
And it's a big statement to make, but touch wood, fortunately, I've always had a job. And I've not really stuck to one single job throughout my 3 years. I've been switching jobs according to the time, preference, stress from university. But believe it or not, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with like all the bars and restaurants that are within the vicinity of the university. Like literally everybody I know that I've met through university has at least done bar work or worked in a restaurant within Glasgow. And I'll notice it kind of just walking down Byres Road. I'll just look in windows and they'll always have like wee signs up saying part-time work needed. And I always think to myself, see, that's just ideal. Just pop in, say, listen, I'm looking for work, and that's one way that you can go, especially if you're kind of in between things or anything like that. But for me, I've had one role that I'm in the medical school at the moment. I'm doing digital education. So part of that is just basically creating Moodle courses for the medical students. They're online masters medical students. And I basically got that through the university's internship hub, which I just checked that out one time and was looking through some things I found interesting. So I'm quite into like digital education anyway, and sort of I'm doing like digital media and information studies, so it kind of aligned with my course. And I just applied through the internship hub. The university kind of help you, as you were saying, Ash, through the process. You're kept updated right throughout the process as well. And I've ended up getting that, I think it was over a year ago now, and it was a part-time position. It was a short contract, but I've actually had that contract extended about 3 or 4 times now.
Congratulations.
And that's just like, thank you. That's just like the sort of nature of things. Like if you might look at something, go, it's only 2 months, but there is the option there, or the scope that they could, want to keep you on. And there was a period of time where my contract for that was not getting renewed for about 2 or 3 months. So there was going to be about 2 or 3 months where I wasn't going to have that income from that internship. So what did I do? Jumped on the internship hub, had a wee look to see if there was anything on there, and I got Sightless. I found a job there that was for the archives and the special collections within the university again. I applied for that and I got the job. So that was over summer last year. I did 2 months in the University of Glasgow's archives and special collections. So that was super interesting because I had just came out of, so I was going into my 4th year, and one of my classes was to do with like kind of digital archiving and like 2D digitization and stuff like that, which again aligned with this internship. So the beautiful thing I think is on the internship hub, there's a lot of stuff that's within the university that can really apply to what you are studying. And even if it's like slightly got something to do with it, I think it really helps boost your CV, and it gives you life experience within that field, which is like so important, being able to apply that to your studies. So yeah, no, it's definitely something. The internship hub's been amazing for me.
I think it's also important to mention how important balancing your time is when you're working and still doing the degree at the university. But
Yeah.
I think from my personal experience and from people I know, it's not really that hard to balance your time because our courses are designed in such a way that we have some time to ourselves,
Yeah,
and we can always use that time and our spare time. It's usually the weekends as well, where people usually work. But I think I have managed to balance my time pretty well. It's all about really your time management, your balancing. I also think that working part time is good for your future employability because it kind of shows how you're good at balancing your time and managing your priorities and your goals, because this is what the employers want in real life, like when you graduate. So I think it's really important to balance your time as well. But it's a tried and tested method, so it usually
yeah.
works out.
I was going to say that's one thing I was going to bring up. I think a lot of people are concerned about that. Like they think, oh, I'm going to go to university. Like I'm going to spend 40 hours a week focusing on that. There's no time for a job. But it's realistically, it's not like that. And you do have time to yourself. So for example, like the internship I'm doing now, I work 7 hours a week. So, and I also say to them, can I do 2 half days?
Hmm.
Because it's a university position that I have as well, they are very, very flexible because they understand, listen, we know that you're studying here. So
Yeah.
what can we do for you to be flexible around your studies? So I work 2 mornings a week for 3.5 hours, and that's my 7 hours done. And then the archives and special collections position that I had, that was through the summer. So I just was full-time Monday, Friday in there. So there is ways for you kind of to adjust. Like, don't worry so much about like being inflexible, because we obviously are content creators as well. And I know I seen it through, I think I seen it through Instagram actually when I applied, or maybe I got an email through my university email. But like, we can all even speak about that as an experience, you know, because every year they're always wanting to bring somebody new on, and that's one of the, I would say, the most flexible job I've ever had, because it's like,
yes, absolutely,
because it's so good, isn't it? It's just like, oh, hi guys, like, we need some people for this thing, can you do it? And then if you've got the time, just sign up, you know.
I have been screaming about this job in my CVs, by the way, because it's so resourceful. It teaches you adaptability, teamwork, and all these skills that the employers desperately want in new employees. Yep. Like, I've literally been like announcing in Capital student ambassador.
Yeah, for sure.
Coming back to the jobs, by the way, I was gonna say, being an international student, I also want to bring up how international students are only allowed 20 hours of work every week, which kind of, I think personally, aligns perfectly with your study as well, because 20 hours is not that much if you think about it. Like, if you're working on the weekend and maybe like a day in the week, that's already 20 hours, and that is, one, that gives you enough money, and two, doesn't distract you from your studies. But like, it's important for like people to know that that's the maximum you can work anyways. So like, considering things like balancing and things like these, like, it's really easy. It works out perfectly.
Yeah, I think on that note as well, like for me, I always like to kind of usually cap it when I'm during term time, like about 16 hours. So if you get a part-time job at like 16 hours, that feels ideal for me. But keep in mind, especially if you work in hospitality or you know, doing bar work or anything like that, there's always opportunities for overtime. So say you've got like a reading week where you've not got any classes, you could go, hey, listen, can I grab a 4-hour shift, and then top that back up to like 20 hours, you know? So there's always like room for adding and kind of taking away. But yeah, so I didn't know that, Ash, so that's really interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout. I was gonna ask you guys, since summer's coming up, did you guys work during last summer, and what were you guys up to?
Yeah, so for me it was the archives and special collections, and that was because I had that gap between my internship and the medical school, and I thought, listen, let's try and find something that's kind of in line with what I'm doing. So that was really good. It was like 2 minutes from my house as well, and I learned so much, and I met some really, really cool people. So I actually met another intern that was on the job with me. So he joined on with me, and we got to talking and stuff, and he actually was doing the museum studies masters that I've applied for this year. So I got a lot of tips and pointers from him. So it's really cool, because that then incentivized me to want to push forward for that, because I really had a first-hand experience from someone who was also doing that master's course. So meeting him kind of changed my perspective on things, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do the museum studies. And the beautiful thing about it was the job was only advertised on the internship hub. So it is a complete opportunity for students. Like, you guys will go onto the internship hub, and some of these jobs are literally only advertised on there because it's a total opportunity for you, which again makes it, and it's good because they again know that you're a student, and they're going to be like, right, we need to make sure that we understand they need some flexibility and stuff like that. So that's why I really like the internship hub, because of the flexibility. So I can turn around and say, listen, I've got an essay due, can we change days? I've done that a few times. Like, if I'm feeling really bogged down, I'm like, can I literally take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off and work Thursday, Friday instead? Because, like, say my essay is due on the Wednesday. So that gives me all day Monday, Tuesday to tidy things up and stuff like that. So yeah, internship hub, definitely, Victor, for yourself. Get on it, have a look.
We'll definitely do.
It's pretty cool how you meet more like-minded people when you're working in something related to your degree, because Studying at university is obviously about the academic aspect, the social aspect, but at the end of the day, it's also about networking and like knowing more people in your field, so that in future when you like doing making a career in that field, you can always like go back to them and collaborate and like because you already know them. So I think networking is a big aspect of student life. In fact, speaking of which, by the way, I was last summer, I was working in a lab at our university. And I think that lab experience got me a job at AstraZeneca. So I really, really value it. But I think I didn't really apply through the internship hub, but I also want to talk about other different ways of applying to a job at university. What I did was I just started emailing as many professors in my field as I could, talking about how I like their research and how I'm really influenced by it and how this is something that genuinely excites me. And I just like basically requesting them to see if they have any space in their lab because I do molecular and cellular biology. So it was a lab work kind of an internship. And basically just like trying and see if they have an opportunity in their lab. But the harsh reality is out of 50 people, 5 of them reply. But I also understand at the same point that they're world renowned professors and they're busy and they have a life. So, like, I respect that. But one, I would say, kind of a tip or a side note that, especially when you're emailing people for job opportunities or internships, try and email as many people as you possibly can. Try and as many options as you can because believe it or not everyone's going to reply back, and it's only fair because they're busy and they've got their own stuff to do, and I understand that, I respect that, but like don't kind of almost be embarrassed to talk to as many people as you can. But at the end of the day, it's all about networking, knowing more people. And as I said to begin with, that they need you as much as you need them. Like they need more people in their workplace or their lab, and you need a job. So like it's very rational.
Have you ever went to any of the job fairs or anything like that?
I've been actually attending a lot of job fairs lately. In fact, this is a top tip when I got from one of my professors that I want to share as well. I think this is something that almost changed my complete approach towards going to job fairs. And I think I remember her telling me how when you go to a career fair, you already have a list of the companies that are going to be there. So instead of just showing up to the career fair and going up to the stall and be like, hey, what jobs do you offer? That is the information you can already find on their website. So that's almost like wasting their time. And that professor taught me how you need to do your own research first about different kind of job roles they have, what kind of experience they need, their application process, and then come up with questions regarding that you cannot find on the website and address those in a career fair. I think that is something that really impacted me, and I've tried and started doing that in the career fairs now. I just brought it up because I found it really interesting. Sorry. But
no,
I think
that's good because it makes you stand out.
Exactly. No, for real. Because that's the kind of questions everyone's gonna ask them. Like, what jobs do you have? Do you have jobs for like these kinds of students? But like, if you have specific questions, then that would make a bigger impact on them. And also, even after like you're done with a career fair and you really like a company or a brand or the person, you should always get back to them through LinkedIn and be like, hey, in reference to our conversation this morning, I really like what information you gave me and it was very helpful. And I was wondering if I could connect with you on LinkedIn. And in that case, even if you can't find a job at this moment, at least they'll have you at the back of their mind forever. So I think this is a kind of approach that I've been using and it's been working out for me. So I think I just thought of sharing it.
Yep. It's all about being proactive and grasping the opportunities for sure. But yeah, the job fairs, they're good for you just to get a wee feeler for things, you know, and if you do everything that you were saying, Ash, then as I say, you start to stick in people's minds and they remember you. So yeah, always check, and you can find them on like societies and stuff like that. A lot of the university societies will post a lot of information about any sort of career fairs that are going to be happening within the university. So for example, I know the Adam Smith Business School, the Business Society, they always post things. They'll do meetups that will have they'll have sponsors and stuff that will come along and do like talks at these sort of and kind of informal meets. So make sure you follow as many societies that you're interested in. Make sure you're following your own school and stuff like that on all socials, because it's a great way to keep up to date with any sort of job related information that otherwise might not get posted anywhere else.
That is such a good shout, actually, because every school has their school specific jobs. That, in fact, even like for life sciences, they do like workshops, and I don't remember what exactly they call it, but like sessions where they invite guest speakers who are professional, like they have made their careers in this field, and they come up and they talk about how they found this field, and they talk about their research. And I think that is really helpful. So I think, as you said, following your school or your degree related organization on the socials is such a good idea.
We hope this episode has been useful. If you're interested in finding out more, you'll find the links you need in the show notes, and you can visit glasgow.ac.uk/get to know Glasgow. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.